How did this Roblox anime game die completely in under 24 hours? And when I say die completely, it went from about 1.5k all the way down to like 30 players in less than 24 hours. This actually might be a world record for the fastest game, or should I say how fast the game has died on the Roblox platform, period. And that's not even me trying to be funny. Now, before we actually get into this and I play what was said in my opinion on Fairy Tail Re, I do need to say there was a lot of steps taken with this game that were just completely wrong. From the way the game was marketed to the way the developers actually put the game out there was completely terrible. And before you guys say anything on, oh, you're just being mean, you're not being constructive, this is why developers don't like showcasing their games, I will say, one, we need to actually start holding developers accountable for what they do and what they actually don't do. And two, as developers, we definitely, and I'm saying we as if I'm a developer, I'm not one, but as developers, you guys need to actually start taking accountability for yourself. Yes, it's easy to work on something for a very long time and actually gaslight yourself into thinking it's better than what it is, but you need to look at your game objectively and ask yourself, will people actually want to play this? Is this entertaining? An example I will say is me, and I know a few other people have actually tried to give the developers of Fairy Tail Re some advice and they just completely ignored it. For instance, and I won't expose too much, here I said you gotta drop more sneaks in the Discord server, and as per usual, my advice was ignored. And don't get it twisted where it's like, oh, Revolveragz is giving advice and it was ignored. There's been multiple, I don't know, developers, there's been multiple content creators that have actually given Dan advice and he just simply doesn't take it. If you go inside the Fairy Tail Re Discord server and actually look at the sneaks, you can tell they are just not of substance. They don't actually deliver anything. If you're going to have content creators make videos on your game, you should be actively putting engaging, interesting looking and entertaining sneaks within your sneaks channel so that when new members finally join the Discord server, they see it entertaining, a cool and an interesting sneak, and they share it with their friend, which would actually have a chain effect of people actually joining the Discord server in order to look at these sneaks. However, if you go inside Fairy Tail Re's Discord server and look at the sneaks, you can see they're actually not of substance and quite subpar, and they're just not frequent as they should be. These sneaks don't actually give me, or sorry, should I say give a random Roblox member anything to actually look forward to. They're not interested. As well as that, I know there was some advice given on what he should do for the devlog, and that was completely not taken. If you watch my devlog video, you can actually see my distaste on how the devlog was structured and what the heck they were doing. There was a combat intro and then 10 minutes of discussing combat mechanics that didn't need to be discussed whatsoever because everybody's seen videos on the game, and there's literally a tutorial in the game that shows what the base combat entails and mechanics. Again, I'm not even going to go into that. If you want to see what I said for all of that stuff, take a look at this video. But yes, the steps taken for this, and even within the devlog, they didn't show anything that would make players look forward to the game, and they didn't even give a release date. They just kind of ended up dropping the game randomly. There was no anticipation built whatsoever. Everything was done completely wrong, in my opinion. I mean, look at this interaction here. It just makes no sense, and it sows the seed of doubt within my mind because it makes me feel like you don't actually know what you're doing. But I digress. Let's get into what was said, and if you guys have anything to say, anything to add after you watch the video, leave your comments in the description, in the comment section down below, and honestly give constructive criticism. We did do it on the stream and Dan wasn't really receptive. However, if you guys, and I know there were some developers that DM'd me afterwards saying how they felt to me about Fairy Tail Re, don't tell me how you feel, tell the person that genuinely needs the advice. Tell the person that genuinely needs the advice, because I don't need it. You know what I mean? Like, let him know all of them. See you guys in the next one, and enjoy. Time for the review. All right, I'll let you guys know exactly how I feel about the game. All right, I just wanted to deafen inside the call because I know Missouri and Dan are just like serial listening, and there's a lot of pressure, man. It's a lot of pressure. But no, let's dissect it. Let's get into this, right? So one thing before I even start speaking, one thing I will say is you guys have been relentless, right? I know I always make heavily opinionated content on Roblox games, but I genuinely don't think any of my criticism has got to the point where it's just like this toxic. Maybe the Bloodlines, because Bloodlines is genuinely this absolute trash. I don't see why people play that, right? But you guys today have been absolutely. You guys have dumbfounded me with the toxicity today. I'm kind of proud of you guys though. I'm not saying it's bad to be toxic. I genuinely do give everyone credit for giving their honest opinions. Honestly, I respect it. But I think I respect it to a certain degree. Because yeah, sometimes you guys do say like stupidly, oh, this game sucks. Oh, type Soul Simulator. But today you guys have actually been giving, on the most part, constructive criticism. So I respect that. Genuinely, I respect that. I feel like this is the first time where, yeah, it's been primarily hate, and it's like overly, you know what I'm saying? Because for Dan to receive all that hate at once is crazy, right? But I feel like you guys have been given constructive criticism on the most part, and it's respectable. I think this is the first time where you guys have been constructive or just quote unquote hated, and it's like I'm not even like tilted. I kind of like okay type beat. Yes, I've been holding back laughters, right? But a lot of the times, sometimes some of the things you guys are saying on the constructive parts have been kind of like funny, like, you know what I mean? So it's been hard to hold back the laughter today. But enough of me giving credit to you guys, right? Let's get into it. So, Fairy Tail Re. Now, at its core, I don't think the game is terrible. However, the game does more things wrong than it does right. The combat system isn't terrible, right? But for a game that's modern, I'm gonna say this would have been great back in 2020, 2021. Like, this game would have been a 10 out of 10 game back in 2020, 2021. I feel like we've come too far in the Roblox anime community in terms of seeing games with combat systems and blah, blah, blah. This doesn't feel... It doesn't feel... I'm going to say both. When I say feel, you need to hop in the game and try it yourself. It doesn't feel and it doesn't look like a 2025 game. We're not even in 2025 anymore. We're actually in 2026, if we want to be honest. It doesn't feel like a 2025 game, right? Yes, sometimes the combat is clunky. Yes, the animations feel stiff. It's not smooth. But when you have abilities and you're fighting people, the combat system can be entertaining. It doesn't mean it's good, but it doesn't mean it's bad at the same time. But it's not immersive. Like, I don't, let's say, you know how you guys play a game? Let's say OG Type Soul. Only thing I can compare it to right now. OG Type Soul, OG Deep Woken. When you would play a game, you play for a couple hours, you go to sleep genuinely thinking about the game. I can't wait to wake up tomorrow so I can play this game again. You go to sleep to literally only going to sleep to energize yourself so you can wake up the next day to play this game. Real immersiveness. You don't get that with this game whatsoever. And this is me putting this is me being nice about it, right? The game's progression system is overly repetitive. Like, it's genuinely a 2020, 2021 progression system. You go to the mission board, you do the mission, you run over to the mission, get the mission, you run over to the mission, you complete the mission, you go all back to the mission board, and you repeat that process until a certain level or a certain threshold. And then you move on to the next area and do the same thing in the next area. Now, I would say if the next, okay, cool. Dan already explained it. Within the desert area, he didn't want to make a big jump for the NPCs or whatever, right? But in the desert area, if there were at least different types of mobs that were in that area and in this biome, it would help gameplay immersiveness completely. But you go over to the desert area and there's still the same or very similar humanoid mobs that you fight in the exact same way, the exact same pattern you were fighting them in the beginning area. That is discouraging. Yes, the map is a little bit OD big. There's no reason for the map to be big if there's not any like hidden areas to explore or NPCs that you need in order to progress a certain thing or fighting style, or there's no hidden caves, there's no construct area, or no mad scientist that changes your race to, you know what I mean? There's nothing in the game like that, at least from what I've seen so far. Obviously we haven't progressed far enough to know, but for what it looks like so far, there's nothing in the game like that. The crafting system in the game feels a little bit just slapped in there as well, because there's no real ways to collect materials that I've seen so far other than getting them from defeating bandits. Like you get wood when you defeat bandits. There's not even like pickaxes to go mine ores or anything. So I don't know, that mechanic's a bit put in the game for no reason. I'm trying to think what else is there. Progression, we spoke about that. The combat, we know about that. What I will say, Amy did say something really insightful earlier. Amy said the game feels like it's a magic game. What did you say, Amy? You said it was like a magic game of combat. It doesn't feel like a fairy tale game. It feels like a game with magic. And low-key, that's what it is, right? Your primary way of fighting is M1s with swords or fists. You don't get your magic until a certain point, right? But what would have been good with the game, for at least progression standpoint, is when you finally do reach the point where you unlock your magic, you undergo some sort of trial or magic awakening phase or magic awakening trial. There's something that makes it where it's like, oh, I'm level 10. I need to do something in order to actually activate my magic. Like some sort of awakening, right? In this, you get to the level, you put your stats in, and you have your magic. It's kind of lackluster. You're really just playing to get to certain thresholds, and you continue playing. You're not playing for an objective. So, yeah, there could be a lot more to the progression for sure, man. For sure. The magic's very minimal. Yes. The magic's very minimal. And right, again, you can argue we haven't experienced any of the late game things, right? But if the game doesn't kind of set you up to enjoy what you have, why would I want to progress to late game? There's just no reason for me to do so. That I don't get a taste or a snippet of anything. The best way I can compare it is to Type Soul. Again, I hate always mentioning Type Soul, but we're not talking about Cetro booming Type Soul. We're talking about OG Type Soul, right? Everybody's first time actually experiencing Type Soul. A lot of people, at least I didn't, when I first saw Type Soul, I thought it was trash. I saw Slykage's video, I saw, oh, the combat actually looks interesting. So first of all, the combat already drew majority of the player base in. Cool. Now you actually get in the game as a noob and you're experiencing things. You finally get to grade 2 and you get your Shikai or partial res or whatever, right? In order to actually get those abilities, you have to undergo some sort of trial. You don't just get it. You undergo some sort of trial. Once you complete the trial, EPD Soul is crazy. Once you complete the trial, you get your abilities. And the thing is, getting your abilities actually enhances your gameplay experience. It's not like, oh, I have abilities now, I can just use them in fights. Like, they actually add to your character's You feel what I'm saying? Like it's fun to use. It's not only fun to use, but it actually adds. It's an extension of your character. Cool. You get to the late game point, you get your Bankai, whatever. Before you even get that, you still need stuff like Visored. And it's not like, oh yeah, I got a bunch of fragments, so I click it and I get Visored. There's still a progression path you need to go through in order to get that. It's just little things like that, adding it into the game, right? That makes the game interesting. It makes it replayable. Even when you're max level, you're gonna wanna come back and reprogress a different slot in order to try the game out more. But with this, it doesn't feel like it has that same sort of replayability. It doesn't have that playability or anything of the sort. So that is my opinion. If I had to give the game a rating on a scale of 1 to 10, I'd give it a 3. The reason why it's so low, or the reason why it even has 3, is because the game's combat system is actually interesting. Like, it has something there. The game's combat system has something there. Genuinely, the game's combat system has something there. So it's like, if you improve the game's combat system, the animations, and the progression, again, the progression is the main part, right? You add more to the game's foundations. If you add more to the game's foundations, this game can easily boost up to a 7. Easily. It's just there's not much to work with right now. Like, sitting around waiting for NPCs to spawn. Yes, there's different spawn locations, but there's 3 or 4 other spawn locations. In a public game, especially in a game that's just releasing, there's going to be multiple people farming different or those other sections. You have to wait. You're standing around waiting for the NPCs to spawn back. Like, there's so much more that can be done to the game. There's so much more. So the game has potential, but at the same time, yeah, that's it. Hands in the air. PvP is the main fundamental of the game's enjoyment. Yes, but that only goes so far. That can only go so far. Because if PvP is the main game's fundamental of the people's enjoyment or enjoyment overall, you're not gonna have the full experience of PvP until your max build. And you're not getting to max build if the progression isn't fun. Forget ping, that doesn't even matter in this instance. If you're not gonna give the game a chance to get to late game, PvP doesn't actually matter. It really doesn't. If the game's progression is not enjoyable, why am I staying just for the sake of experiencing late game PvP? It doesn't make any sense. It really doesn't. So, yeah, man. That's all I have to say. I'm wishing Dan and anyone else that works on this game the best of luck. I feel like today's stream was like overly toxic, for sure. But I'm glad the toxicity didn't come from me. That's all I can say. Meet potential, man. If, when, but never is.
Revolveragz donated $2 through Super Chat.